कृष्णं नारायणं वन्दे कृष्णं वन्दे व्रजप्रियं कृष्णं द्वैपायनं वन्दे कृष्णं वन्दे पृतासुतं सच्चिदानन्दरूपाय विश्वोत्पत्त्यादिहेतवे तापत्रयविनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नुमः। व्यासाय विष्णुरूपाय व्यासरूपाय विष्णवे नमो वै ब्रह्मनिधये वासिष्ठाय नमो नमः। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। मेनिरे भगवद्रूपं शास्त्रं भागवतं कलौ पठनात् श्रवणात् सद्यो वैकुण्ठफलदायकम्। श्रीमद्भागवतं नाम पुराणं लोकविश्रुतं शृणुयात् श्रद्धया युक्तः मम सन्तोषकारणम्। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। जन्माद्यस्य यतः अन्वयाद् इतरतश्च अत्तेषु अभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्महृदाय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः। तेजोवारि मृदं यथा विनिमयः यत्र त्रिसर्गामृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि। This is the very first shloka of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the Mangala shloka. The very first skanda of Srimad Bhagavatam begins on a glorious note, a profound Mangala shloka that captures the very essence of Vedas and Vedanta, that captures the very essence of all Shastras. It presents the definition of God. All of us constantly seek to know God. How do we define God? It is not an easy task. If someone asks us to give a definition of God, we would possibly struggle. How do we give a comprehensive definition of God? The illustrious Vyasa therefore begins Srimad Bhagavatam on a glorious note by capturing the very essence of all Vedanta, by giving us a profound definition of God. No wonder he begins with a sutra from the Brahma Sutras, Janmadi asya yataha. This is also a Mangala shloka. The shloka is a call to meditate. Param dhimahi. Janmadyasya yataha param dhimahi. Anvayat param dhimahi. Itarataha param dhimahi. Itarataschatteshu param dhimahi. Abhijnaha param dhimahi. Swarat param dhimahi. Tene brahma hridaya adikavaye param dhimahi. Muhyanti yat surayaha param dhimahi. Tejovari mridam yata vinimayaha param dhimahi. Yatra trisargam mrisha param dhimahi. Dhamna svena sada nirastak param dhimahi. Satyam param dhimahi. It's a call to meditate. Param Dhimahi, meditation on the Supreme. Dhimahi is to meditate. So in the very first shloka, the shloka begins with, let us meditate. Let us meditate on the supreme reality. The moment we are asked to meditate, we are very uncomfortable. The general notion that we have on meditation is beyond us. Meditation is not something that comes naturally to us. It requires great effort. But whether we realize it or not, we are all very good when it comes to meditation. In fact, whether we realize it or not, we are constantly meditating. We are meditating all the time. We are meditating every day. We are meditating every hour. We are meditating on our children. We are meditating on our possessions and positions. We are meditating on our pet dogs and cats. Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha sangasteshu upajayate, Krishna says. No, Krishna dhyana may be difficult. Vishaya dhyana comes very naturally to us. So therefore, meditation is not unnatural to us. It is just that our direction of meditation is wrong. But meditation we do. Any object that attracts us, any object to which we get attracted, we get attached to, meditation happens automatically. When there is any kind of attraction towards any object, meditation is quite but natural. But then, such meditation on worldly objects only agitate us, only drain us out of our vitality. Therefore, when Srimad Bhagavatam asks us to meditate, we need to understand this meditation is something like devotional tuning. This meditation, this dhyana is to tune ourselves with ultimate reality, to tune ourselves with Krishna. In fact, to be in tune with Krishna is our natural state. And unfortunately, most of the time, we are actually in not our natural state. That's the reason, that's the source of all discomfort and stress all the time. That's the source of all unhappiness. Because we are all the time out of tune. So therefore, to be in tune with Krishna is our natural state. Meditation is devotional tuning. Now, when the Shastras say one must practice meditation, we need to understand this. It is not like rehearsal for some act that we will eventually perform sometime in the future. Meditation, practice of meditation cannot be taken as some kind of a rehearsal. Why? Because we need to understand is the very practice of meditation is the very performance of meditation. If we take it as a rehearsal, then that distracts us from offering everything that we have to Krishna. Also, when we talk about meditation, more than the mode of thinking, it is no doubt a mode of thinking, but more than mode of thinking, the object of our thought is of significance. Today, meditation has become a multi-billion-dollar industry. There are many who are making millions out of meditation. There are several schools, there are several masters, there are several teachers going around. And meditation most often in this so-called secular meditation is all about meditating on any object that catches our fancy. Any object. So we are taught to meditate on space. We are taught to meditate on affirmations. We are taught to meditate on nature. We are taught to meditate on a flower. We are taught to meditate on a black dot on a white screen. We are taught to meditate on all kinds of various soothing sounds. These kinds of meditation are fine. But we need to understand that the object of meditation, the objective of meditation is not just pacification alone. We may get peace by meditating on something that does not agitate us, that does not induce craving in us. Normally, material objects, when we meditate on them, when we direct our consciousness towards any object, that there is a danger that our mind can get agitated. There is a danger that the object can induce craving in us. So therefore, when we direct our consciousness towards any object which does not induce craving, which does not cause agitation, but it gives peace, it is a good form of meditation, no doubt. Such form of meditation can give us peace, P-E-A-C-E, but we must understand it is only a small piece, P-I-E-C-E, in the full fruit of meditation. Because meditation is much more than pacification. It is about bliss, it is about ananda, it is about contentment. And that is the reason why the object of meditation becomes important. If meditation has to be empowering, then the object of meditation also has to be empowering. And that is the reason why Shastras are very clear as to whom to meditate on. Krishna categorically declares, Yoginam api sarvesham madgaterantaratmanam shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yuktatamo mataha. Of all the yogis, I consider the bhakta as the greatest yogi. One who meditates on Krishna. Such meditation, where the object of meditation is the supreme object of all attraction, is the most empowering of all objects. That is a truly worthwhile meditation. That such form of meditation goes beyond pacification, goes beyond satisfaction. It gives us true ananda, true bliss. Also, when Srimad Bhagavatam begins with a call to meditate, we also need to understand that meditation is not antithesis to action. It is not about avoiding action. Many a times we think just doing meditation is not productive. There is so much to do. Why waste time doing meditation? We need to understand that productivity is not about how long we work, but how well we work. And therefore, when Bhagavatam starts off with a call to meditate, we need to understand that such meditation is not an antithesis to action, it is the very basis of all action. The call is to meditate on Krishna internally while discharging our responsibilities externally. Meditation on Krishna has to become the very basis of all our actions. And that is the reason why meditation is not to be just looked upon as a very passive activity. It is an active engagement with Krishna, not for a small period of time during the day, but over a longer period of time during the day. To stay connected with Him as much as possible throughout. While engaging in all kinds of activities, one can still stay connected with Him and stay in a state of meditation. Internally meditate on Krishna while externally discharge one's responsibilities. That is the call that Bhagavatam starts with. Param Dhimahi. Meditate on the supreme reality. Janmadyasya yataha param dhimahi. Janmadi asya yataha. Let us meditate on the one, the supreme, who creates, sustains, and dissolves. The supreme cause of all threefold cosmic functions: Srishti, Sthiti, Laya. Creation, sustenance, and dissolution. Let us meditate on that Supreme who is the sole cause for the threefold cosmic functions. That Supreme Reality. He is the object of this meditation. Janmadyasya yataha Anvayat Param Dhimahi. This Param Dhimahi needs to be added to every description that is given on Bhagavan. Anvayat, the one who is present in everything, in every entity in this creation. He pervades and permeates this creation. His presence is there in every entity in this creation. Let us meditate on that Supreme who is present in everything in this creation. Itarataha Dhimahi. Let us meditate on that Supreme who is distinct and different from every other entity, who has no equal. There is nothing superior to him. He is distinct and different from every other entity in this universe. Itarataha. Let us meditate on that Supreme. Itarataha arteshu. Now here there could be a question. Can there be any other creator? Can anything else qualify to be the creator? To be the source of creation? What about Prakriti, or what about Purusha? What about matter or the individual soul? Or some may even think, or rather come up with fanciful theories that life emerged out of no life. Randomly some chemicals were floating in the cosmos, and randomly some combination of chemicals happened, and randomly forms and names happened, and randomly life came out of no life. In order to completely demolish such myths, it is categorically declared that this creation has an order. This creation has a design. This creation has harmony. This creation has beauty. And therefore, this creation needs to have that one who is supreme, who is the creator, who is distinct and different from every other entity. And therefore, itarataha atteshu. He is the source of all sources. He is the source of all our resources. Therefore, he is the source. He is the resource, and he is not just an ordinary resource, he is our only recourse. Itarataha atteshu param dhimahi. Let us meditate on that supreme reality who is the cause of all causes, who is the source of all sources, the source of all our resources. Abhijnaha param dhimahi. Abhijnaha. The omniscient, the one who knows everything, who has infinite knowledge, expansive knowledge. Abhijnaha param dhimahi. Swarat param dhimahi. He is the only one who is swatantra, independent. Every other entity is dependent on him. Every other entity is subject to the law of karma. He is beyond, he is the lawgiver, and therefore he is beyond the law of karma. So let us meditate on that Supreme who is Swarad, Also, he is the one who runs everything by his mere will. He gets everything done effortlessly. To such a supreme being, on such a supreme being, let us meditate. Anvayat itaratascha arteshu abhijñah swarat tene brahma hrida ya adikavaye param dhimahi. Let us meditate on that supreme being who bestowed the Vedas to Chaturmukha Brahma in order for Brahma to begin the process of individual creation. That supreme being who enables individual creation to happen through Brahma, and for this process of creation to happen, he bestows the manual, the Vedas, the source of all laws that govern the workings of this universe. Tene Brahma Hrida ya Adikavaye Param Dhimahi Muhyanti Yat Surayaha Param Dhimahi. He is, let us meditate on that supreme Muhyanti Yat Surayaha. Even the Devas and the great sages struggle to comprehend him in totality. That transcendental being who cannot be easily comprehended, who is beyond human intellect, not just human intellect, who is beyond even great rishis and devas. Muhyanti Yat Surayaha Param Dhimahi Tejovari Mridam Yata Vinimayaha Param Dhimahi. Here, the reference is to the one, the supreme, who causes aggregate creation. Tejovari Mridam. Tejaha Vari Mridam. Agni Apaha Prithvi. The one who causes the building blocks of matter, the admixture of building blocks of matter for the aggregate creation to happen. Here, out of the 5 Panchabhutas, only 3 are mentioned for the reason that the other 2 are beyond our perception. Akasha Advayuhu Vayo Agni Agnerapah Adhya Prithivi. From subtle, the bhutas, the fundamental elements manifest, become grosser and grosser. So, Akasha is the subtlest of elements, Prithvi is the grossest of elements. So, the 3 gross elements have been given. Trivitkarana, Shastras call. There are different ways that the admixture happens. Panchikarana, Trivitkarana. These are all different ways where the fundamental building blocks, the Panchabhutas, are the fundamental building blocks of matter, which come together, which are caused to come together in order for this whole material world to be built. Therefore, to that supreme Tejovari Mridam Yatha Vinimayaha, the one who effortlessly causes the fundamental building blocks of matter to come together, thereby this whole beautiful world, this whole universe is built. To that supreme, let us meditate on that supreme. Yatra Trisargaha Mrishaha. Trisargaha. Trisargaha refers to this material world, which is a product of 3 gunas: Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Trisargaha Amrishaha. This material world made out of these 3 gunas is always subject to changes, subject to all kinds of blemishes. Therefore, let us meditate on that supreme who is devoid of all the characteristics of this material world made out of the 3 gunas, who is beyond the 3 gunas, who is blemishless. Yatra Trisargaha Mrishaha Dhamna Svena Sada Nirastakuhakam. Nirastakuhakam, one who is devoid of any illusion, one who is not tainted by Ajnana. Dhamna Svena Sada Nirastakuhakam, one, the supreme, whose jnana is eternally infinite. Eternally infinite. This is to bring a distinction between him and a jivatma bound in samsara, a baddha jiva. For a jivatma bound in samsara, the jnana contracts, and only in the state of moksha it expands. Whereas for Bhagavan, his jnana is eternally expansive, is eternally infinite. Dhamna svena sada nirastakuhakam, who is beyond illusion, who is devoid of illusion, who is not tainted by ajnana. Satyam param dhimahi. He is Satyam. He is Satyasya Satyam. He is the very basis of reality. Without him, there is nothing. Nothing can exist without him. This prapancha, this universe is Brahmatmaka. He is the source of all reality. He is Satya. He is the truth, the absolute truth, and one who is not subject to any vikara, to any changes. Satyam param dhimahi. Let us meditate on that Satyam, that ultimate reality. Thus, the very first shloka of Srimad Bhagavatam begins on a glorious note, a call for us to meditate on that supreme reality. And in that process, we also get a profound definition of who is God, an answer to this question, this perennial question. The Vedanta beautifully gives a definition. Yato va bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yat prayanti abhisamvitanti tad vijñāsasva tad brahmeti. Who is God? Who is that Brahman? Yato va bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yat prayanti abhisamvisanti tad vijñāsasva tad brahmeti. That verily from which all beings are born. Having born, that by which they live. And while when they depart, that which they attain, know that as that Parabrahman. Now here, Vyasa gives us the similar definition. Janmadi asya yataha. Karanatva. That is the reason why Shastras say, Karanam tu dhyayaha. Whom should I meditate on? Simple answer. Karanam tu dhyayaha. Meditate on the Karana of all Karana. He is Sakala Jagat Karana. He is the Adi Karana. He is Akhila Karana. He is Nishkarana. He is Adbhuta Karana. He is the he is Sakala Jagat Karana. He is the Karana of all Karanas. He is the cause threefold for the threefold functions of the cosmos. He is also Adbhuta Karana. Why he is Adbhuta Karana? He is wonder of wonders. Here, by glorifying him with the two adjectives, Anvayat Itarataha. Anvayat, he is present in every entity. Therefore, he is the Upadhana Karana. Itarataha, he is distinct and different from everything else. Therefore, he is Nimitta Karana. Now, this we need to very clearly understand the uniqueness of Bhagavan. Shastras, when they try to teach us on the Karanatva Bhagavan, give us a very simple example for all of us to relate to. For a pot, for a mud pot, the Upadhana Karana is clay. Material cause. Upadhana Karana is material cause. For a mud pot, the material cause is clay. For a mud pot, clay alone will not become a mud pot. We need a potter who needs to take the clay and make the pot. Clay on its own never becomes a pot. So therefore, material cause alone is not enough. We need an instrumental cause, nimitta karana. So therefore, even the universe needs an upadana karana, material cause, and needs a nimitta karana, an instrumental cause. And the wonder of wonders, the beauty of beauty is Bhagavan is both the upadana karana and nimitta karana. That is why he is not only sakala karana, he is adbhuta karana, he is nishkarana. He is the cause of all causes, and for him there is no cause. That is why he is nishkarana. Thus, right at the beginning, we get a very profound definition on God, on the Purushottama, on the Parabrahman. Also, in this very first Mangala Shloka, the uniqueness of Bhagavan, not only as someone who engages in Srishti, Sthiti and Laya, but also one who is the only Moksha Paladata is also brought out. Now, when we say he is the cause of Srishti, Sthiti and Laya, which is creation, sustenance and dissolution, what about Moksha? Moksha, the function of bestowing moksha is embedded in sthiti and laya. When we say sthiti, sustenance. The function of sustenance is nothing but rakshanam. Bhagavan is our rakshaka. And what is rakshana? Rakshana is taking care of our kshema, our well-being. Ishtaprapti, anishta nivritti is rakshana. Ishtaprapti, give us what we like. Anishta nivritti, remove everything from us which we don't like. And what is the highest form of ishtaprapti and anishta nivritti? It is moksha. Moksha prapti. Therefore, embedded within sthiti, within rakshana is also moksha pradatva. And embedded within laya is also moksha pradatva. Moksha, after all, is complete disconnection from Prakriti, destruction of all kind of association with Prakriti, and therefore, in a way, moksha is also called atyantika pralaya. Therefore, embedded within sthiti and laya is also moksha pradatva. That is also brought out very clearly in this very first Mangala Shloka. Also, the distinct and different nature, his swabhava, his swarupa and swabhava being distinct and different. Swarupa is nature, swabhava is characteristic. Being distinct and different is also brought out in the very first Mangala Shloka. We need to understand that when we look at existence, this reality can be understood through three tattvas. Tattva, reality is threefold. Chit, Achit, Bhagavan, Ishvara. Achit Tattva is the object of experience, physical matter, which is called Prakriti. This physical body and everything in this universe, the object of our senses, are all made of matter, which is Achit, Prakriti. Chit Tattva, the experiencing conscious subject, the individual soul, the Jivatma, is Chit Tattva. And Bhagavat Tattva, Bhagavan, the ruler, the owner of the other Tattvas. Now here in this very Mangala Shloka, we get to see how he is distinct and different from all the other two Tattvas. Satyam Param Dhimai, towards the end, Dhamna Svena Sada, Nirastakuhakam. There, very clearly, it is shown that Bhagavan is one. He is the supreme whose jnana is eternally infinite, is never subject to any changes. This is clearly showing that he is distinct and different from those jivas who are bound in samsara, the baddha jivas. Satyam Param Dhimahi, Satyam, one who is never subject to any changes. Therefore, he is distinct and different from Achit Tattva and the Baddha Jivas. Param Dhimahi Param. He is distinct and different from Nitya Jivas. When we talk of individual souls, there are three types of individual souls. Baddha, Mukta, Nitya. Baddha Jivas are those who are caught in the cycle of samsara. Mukta Jivas are the liberated Jivas. They were once in samsara but now are liberated. Nitya Jivas are eternally liberated, and in this Mangala Shloka, very clearly the distinction between all the three kinds of Jivas and Bhagavan is also brought out. Therefore, in the very first Mangala Shloka, we get a profound definition of God. Answers to who is God? How do we know Him? Now, the immediate question is, this is an overwhelming definition of God. After all, trying to define God is not an easy process, and therefore it can be overwhelming to begin with. But nevertheless, it begins to kindle a sense of awe, a sense of reverence, a sense of wonder. And while several questions and doubts could be triggered in our minds, it also kindles a sense of respectful inquiry to know further. And how do we know Him? That is the whole objective of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is the journey of knowing Him is where Srimad Bhagavatam comes in. And therefore, that is the reason why right at the beginning, with a glorious shloka, Mangala Shloka, Srimad Bhagavatam kindles a sense of awe and reverence, a sense of wonder, and kindles a sense of respectful inquiry to know the ultimate reality. Janmadyasya yataha param dhimahi अन्वयाद इतरतश्च अत्तेषु अभिज्ञस्वराट् परं धीमहि तेने ब्रह्म हृदाय आदिकवये परं धीमहि पुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः परं धीमहि तेजोवारि मृदाम्यता विनिमयः परं धीमहि यत्र त्रिसर्गां मृषा परं धीमहि धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकोकं परं धीमहि सत्यं परं धीमहि. So having given a call to meditate on that supreme reality, the next shloka talks about what is the outcome of such a meditation. In the very next shloka, the outcome of such a meditation on supreme reality is beautifully highlighted. Not only that, how do we approach that supreme reality? What is the way to approach Him? And when we meditate on that supreme reality, when we do that dhyana, that upasana, loving meditation on that supreme reality, what is the assured outcome? In a way, the second shloka is a glorious assurance. Dharma projita kaitavaha atra paramo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam वास्तवमत्र वस्तु शिवदं तापत्रयोन्मूलनम श्रीमद् भागवते महामुनि कृते किं वा परैः ईश्वरः सद्यो हृदि अवरुध्यते अत्र कृतिभिः शुश्रूभिः तत्क्षणात्. It's a shloka of assurance. In this shloka, it is very clearly declared that Srimad Bhagavatam totally rejects a materialistic way of life. When we say materialistic way of life, it is not rejection of material life. It is a rejection of a materialistic way of life, a materialistic conception of life. We cannot completely reject material life. After all, as long as we are in samsara, we have to be in material life. It is rejecting the materialistic conception of life. What is the materialistic conception of life? The materialistic conception of life is to believe that the source of our happiness is in the external objects in this material world. It is to believe that summum bonum of life is just bodily pleasures, to experience bodily pleasures. This is the materialistic conception of life. So therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam completely rejects this materialistic conception of life and recommends supreme dharma, the right way of life and living. Supreme dharma, which is known, which is practiced by those who are blessed, which is practiced by those who are blessed and those who are pure. And Srimad Bhagavatam also, in the process of recommending the right way of life and living, also assures us of the outcome of such a way of life and living. Therefore, in the second shloka, the theme of meditation on the supreme reality continues, and the assurance on what are the outcomes. When we meditate on Krishna, it is assured that all our problems begin to shrink. Now, when we are always constantly meditating on our problems. We are dwelling on our problems. The more we dwell on a problem, the bigger the size of the problem. And we all experience this on a day-to-day basis. The more we dwell on a problem, the size of the problem keeps growing. And relatively, our size versus the problem keeps decreasing to such an extent that we come to a stage where the magnitude of the problem becomes almost impossible to handle. By meditating on Krishna, with the growing awareness of Krishna in the mind, the size of the problem start to shrink. And in this shloka, the outcome, the benefit of such blissful upasana is also highlighted. Dharmaha projita kaitavaha. Projita means totally discarding. Kaitavaha, a very interesting word used as an adjective to dharma. Kaitava dharma. Dharma here is way of life. What is kaitava dharma? Kaitava means deceptive, cheating. Cheating dharma, the dharma that cheats. He says, discard the dharma that cheats. What is that dharma that cheats? What is that way of life and living that cheats? When we end up getting less from life than what we are supposed to get, that is cheating. A materialistic way of life and living is what is referred to here as kaitava dharma. Materialism drives human race to an inhuman race. Incidentally, the word race also means competition. Human race, that is the reason why it looks like human race is only engaged in a race, in a mad race all the time. And no one knows what is success in this mad race. This engagement in this mad race where everybody is just rushing, competing all the time, not knowing what is the goalpost. That is kaitava dharma. Kaitava dharma here is not able to get the full benefit out of life, which is a great opportunity. In kaitava dharma, in this materialistic conception of life, we have a great definition of how to increase happiness. How do we increase happiness? Happiness is equal to number of desires fulfilled divided by total number of desires. Somebody came up with this brilliant definition. Happiness is equal to total number of desires fulfilled divided by number of desires fulfilled divided by total number of desires. That seems like a brilliant definition. As I keep fulfilling my desires, obviously my happiness needs to grow. The only problem is, as I keep fulfilling my desires, The numerator may grow, but the denominator, the total number of desires, keeps growing exponentially, and therefore there is no possibility for happiness to grow whatsoever. This is Kaitava Dharma. This is cheating. Bhagavatam says this is cheating. We are all being cheated. Engaged in a mad race. All of us are running a mad race. Right from the time we took birth, we are all running after something, not knowing what we are running after. But unfortunately, we don't end up getting everything out of life. Life is meant to be a platform to catapult us from a temporary world to a permanent world, to the eternal world, to catapult us from a temporary world filled with all kinds of afflictions, physical and mental, to an eternal world, to Vaikuntha, which is devoid of any afflictions. And if that does not happen, then it is Kaitava Dharma. So therefore, Dharma projita Kaitavaha. Completely discard this Kaitava Dharma, this Dharma which is cheating, where only Artha and Kama are focused. Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam. Beautifully explained here. Paramaha, Paramadharma. One should adopt that Paramadharma, that way of life and living advocated by Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam. Nirmatsaranam. What a wonderful way of explaining those who are pure and pious. Matsarya is envy. Matsarya is jealousy. In a materialistic conception of life, the impetus, the driving force is always comparison. To such an extent that one's happiness always depends on another's happiness. I buy a new car, a $500,000 worth car, and I drive it. My happiness lasts only until I park it and I see my neighbor's car, which is $1 million. Happiness also is always in comparison, always in competition, as though there is scarcity of happiness. Competing for happiness all the time. Always, if the other person is jealous, then we are happy. One needs to be envious, only then I am happy. To such an extent that some of you possibly may remember, you may not want to admit, because once you admit, you will admit that you're old, because there's an advertisement from the 80s. Neighbor's envy, owner's pride. Those of you can relate to this ad are all old, so don't admit it. But somehow we just saw it recently. Onida, owner's pride, neighbor's envy. Nirmatsaranam are those who do not fall in this trap. They are above and beyond all envy, to such an extent that they don't envy even Krishna. Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. Nirmatsaranam. They are not only rise above envy, they are not envious of anyone, they are not even envious of Krishna. Because why? Ideally, we should not be even thinking that we should enjoy like Krishna. No, we can never enjoy. We have to enjoy with Krishna, serving him. Nirmatsaranam, those who are untainted by all kinds of envy and jealousy. That's why Krishna to Arjuna says, Idam tute guhyatavam pravakshyam yanasuyave. Arjuna, why did I choose you of all the people to deliver the Gita? Only one reason, hey Arjuna, because you are anasuyakaha. That is the only reason. Bhagavan loves those who have risen above Matsarya. Paramaha Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam. Rejecting the cheating dharma, one must adopt the supreme dharma which practiced by those who are Nirmatsaranam. Vastavam atra vastu. The supreme reality. Vastavam atra vastu. The entity which is the only reality. Which means without it, there is nothing else. Which is Bhagavan. Without him, nothing else exists. Vastavam atra vastu. Shivadam tapatrayonmulanam. He is the one who confers Shivadam, all kinds of auspiciousness. Tapatrayonmulanam. He is the one who can uproot, not remove, uproot. That's why it says tapatrayonmulanam. He can completely uproot the tapatrayas, all kinds of miseries. Tapatrayonmulanam. Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim va paraihi. When we have Srimad Bhagavatam, what else do we need? For realizing Krishna, for God realization, do we need anything else? Not just for, do we need anything else to survive in this world? Srimad Bhagavatam alone is sufficient, is more than sufficient. Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite, bestowed to us by Vyasa, this Bhagavatam alone is enough to fulfill the purpose of life. Ishvara Sadhya Hridi Avarudhyate Atra Kritibihi Sushrushubihi Takshanat. The outcome of Dhimahi is now being captured here. What is the outcome of Upasana on Krishna? The outcome is Krishna manifests Avarudhyate. Then and there, he makes us experience him within and without. Immediately his presence is invoked. Srimad Bhagavatam, the more we listen to it, Shushrubhi, the more we listen to it, it invokes instantaneously, then and there, invokes, makes us realize his presence. In the very first shloka, his transcendence, his paratva is glorified. We may wonder, is he beyond our reach? This shloka gives us an assurance that he is transcendent, he is also immanent. He is within our reach. He is closer to us than we can even ever imagine. And therefore, here the outcome of that Upasana that is prescribed right at the beginning is beautifully explained. That Krishna ensures that he manifests in our heart. He makes us feel his presence. And with this, then we go to the next very stage, the pinnacle of experiencing Krishna. The third shloka is an all-time favorite of all masters. It's possibly one of those very simple but profound shlokas of Srimad Bhagavatam. Nigamakalpataror galitam palam shukamukat amrtadrava samyutam pibatha bhagavatam rasamalayam muhuraho rasika bhavukah. Pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam. Pibata bhagavatam. From Dhimahi, now the call is Pibata. Dhimahi is to meditate. Pibata is to drink. To drink Krishna Rasa. Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam. When Bhagavatam is there, the Rasamalayam, there is no more Dukkhalaya. Samsara is a Dukkhalaya. With Bhagavata, which is Rasamalaya, there is no Dukkhalaya. Nigama Kalpataror Galitam Palam Shkomukat Amritadrava Samyutam. Nigama Kalpataror Galitam Palam. The Vedas are the desire tree. They fulfill all kinds of desires. The fruit of that desire-giving tree is Srimad Bhagavatam. The ripened fruit, not an ordinary fruit, a ripened fruit. Not only that, Sukhamukhat Amritadrava Samyutam. It is blended. This ripened fruit of the desire tree of Vedas is blended with the nectar of the lotus lips of Shuka Brahma, who has tasted it. And therefore, that concoction can only be more than divine. Therefore, Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam. Rasa. Bhagavata is rasa, is a source of all rasas. This is where the call is to make the jump, to cross over the chasm of moving from knowing about God to knowing God. We need to know this subtle distinction of knowing about God and knowing God. Knowing about Krishna and knowing Krishna. Knowing about Him is collecting content. Very important. Very important. But at the same time, over a period of time, we need to move from a stage of knowing about Him to knowing Him. Because Krishna is not just an object of meditation, he is also a subject of reciprocation. We need to understand this. Because when we do upasana, when we do dhyana, when we connect with him, he reciprocates. He engages with us. He transforms us. He strengthens the bhakti in us. He strengthens the shraddha in us. And this engagement is a relationship that we build. That is why it is rasa. Rasa is the sweetness, is a sweet emotion, which is an experience that comes out of building a relationship. This is where the difference is between knowing about Krishna and knowing Krishna. Knowing about a person is knowing the details. But knowing a person is experiencing him based on cultivating a relationship with him. Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam, the rasa, to drink the rasa, we need to not just know about Krishna, we need to know him. We need to cultivate that relationship with him. We need to invest in that relationship with him. We spend time and effort investing our time in relationship building, and we fail to build the fundamental relationship that we need to build. We try to build relationship with everybody, and we completely ignore relationship building with our own source. And only when we start investing time and effort in cultivating that relationship, we start to experience the rasa. Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavuka. And who are those who relish, who experience this rasa? Bhuvi Bhavuka. They are experts. The call is here to become experts in tasting Krishnamrita, in tasting Krishna rasa. And also here, there is one very subtle message also which is given here. Nigamakalpataror galitam palam shukamukat amritadrava samyutam. Nigamakalpataror galitam palam. Bhagavatam is a ripened fruit of the desired tree of the Vedas. But now, if a ripened fruit falls from a tree, there is every chance that the rasa will be spilled and will be lost. That is the reason why Shuka prevents that fall. Shukamukat amritadrava samyutam. And therefore, also the message here is, it is through a Guru Parampara, through various acharyas who have ensured that this ripened fruit is fully available for us to relish today. That we can experience Krishna rasa eternally. And therefore, Bhagavatam is Rasamalaya. It is to be experienced. And every time we take up Bhagavatam, the relationship with Krishna becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. And that is the reason why the call here is to become experts. So from Dhimahi to Pibata, now it becomes very easy for us to relate that contemplation on Krishna is as simple as drinking water. Pibata Bhagavatam. Just like how we drink water, the call is to drink Bhagavatam on a daily basis. And therefore, right at the very beginning, all the sages who have assembled in Naimisharanya are all eagerly waiting for this nectar to flow, which the nectar, Shuka's nectar, which is now flowing through Suta Pauranika. Because it is Suta who is now going to address all the sages of Naimisharanya, who are eagerly waiting. Therefore, the very first chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, the very first adhyaya of the very first skanda is all the sages posing questions to Suta. And then Suta in the second adhyaya starts to answer all the questions. The intention was to complete 2 adhyayas today. But we have only completed 3 shlokas of the first adhyaya. Let us take 5 more minutes just to conclude adhyaya 1 and look at the kind of answers that Suta is going to give in adhyaya 2. Primarily, there are 2 kinds of questions that the sages of Naimisharanya, led by Shaunaka, pose. Tatra tatrajna sayushman bhavata yad vinishchitam pumsam ekanta shreyas tannas samshitum arhasi. Shreyas. What is Shreyakara for us? What is that ultimate good? Hey Suta, you know all the Shastras. You have been taught by Shuka. Therefore, you know what is the ultimate good. What is right for us. So therefore, we want you to teach us what is Shreyakara. What is the ultimate good for us? So one line of questioning is on the topic of what is Shreyas? What is the ultimate good? How do we lead our life and living? What is that which will help us fulfill the purpose of our life? That is one line of questioning. The other line of questioning is to know about Krishna Katha. And also the line of questioning on the way of life and living, taking into account that Kali Yuga has already started. And therefore the sages are worried not for themselves, but for the people in future of Kali Yuga. Kalau prayane alpayayush sabyaha kalavasmin yuge janaha mandaha sumandamatayaha mandabhagya hi upadritaha. They say, hey Suta, in Kali Yuga, people have less lifespan. The lifespan is very short. So therefore, one does not have the luxury of postponing. There is a lifespan is very short. So therefore, one needs to make opportunity of the short lifespan. On top of it, people in Kali Yuga are mandaha. We can easily relate to this. People are lazy. They only want quick fixes. Instant gratification is the mantra. Because of being ruled by laziness. Not only they are manda, because they are manda, sumanda mataya, they are also misguided. Because they are misguided, mandabhagya, they are also ruled by misfortune. Upadritaha. Thousands of years back, the sages knew that people of Kali Yuga will always stay distracted forever. Upadritaha. They will always stay distracted forever. So in this context, people being lazy, people being misguided, being not fortunate, being perennially distracted, what is Shreyakara for us? This is one line of questioning. And then they also want to know the Avatara Rahasya. They also want to know the purpose of Krishna Avatara. Suta janasi baddham te bhagavan satvatam patihi devakyam vasudevasya jato yasya chikirshaya. We are also desirous, keen to know what is the purpose of Bhagavan's Krishna Avatara. Hey Suta, you know this in detail. We are desirous, we are impatient to know. And we also want to know the purpose of his various other avatars as well. This is the second line of questioning. Based on the series of questions that the sages of Naimisharanya ask, in the second Adhyaya, Suta gives them glorious answers. Suta, in one simple shloka, summarizes the very essence of what dharma is all about in Kali Yuga. Savai pumsham paro dharmo yato bhakti radhokshaje ahetuki apratihata yatatma suprasidati. He says, what is the supreme dharma? Suta gives a one-word answer. He says, bhakti. Now, what kind of bhakti? He says, ahaituki apratihata. Bhakti which is unmotivated, which means bhakti which is not a business transaction between me and Krishna. It has to be causeless love, devotional service, unmotivated and uninterrupted, he says. Both seem to be not possible for us. But according to Suta, the definition of bhakti is that which is constant contemplation of Bhagavan, knowing that he is the goal of all goals. That bhakti which is unmotivated, which is costless. That bhakti which is uninterrupted, undivided. Knowing that the goal of all goals is none other than Vasudeva. So therefore, Suta presents us with a glorious prayer. Vasudeva para Veda, Vasudeva para Makah, Vasudeva para Yoga, Vasudeva para Kriyah, Vasudeva para Jnanam, Vasudeva para Tapah, Vasudeva paro Dharmo, Vasudeva para Gatihi. Let us continue to contemplate on Vasudeva, who is the ultimate object of all the Vedas. Vasudeva para Veda. Let us continue to contemplate on Vasudeva, who is the purpose, the only purpose for performing any worship. Vasudeva Paramakaha, Vasudeva Para Yoga. Yogas, all sadhanas is to only realize Vasudeva. Vasudeva Para Kriyaha. He is the only one who bestows all kinds of rewards. Vasudeva Param Jnanam. He is the supreme knowledge. Vasudeva Param Tapaha. All austerities are meant only to please him. Vasudeva Paro Dharmaha. He is Dharma personified, and the supreme Dharma is loving devotional service, Kainkarya to him. Vasudeva Param Gatihi. He is the supreme goal of life. Let us continue to contemplate on Vasudeva, who is our supreme goal of life. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Sarvam Sri Krishnarpanamastu.